I co-led the Michigan Healthy Nail Salon Cooperative there, which was a community-based initiative focused on nail salon workers, because they're mostly immigrant women who are low wage, of childbearing age, exposed to a lot of chemicals and hazards. And actually here in Texas, despite us having the second largest Vietnamese population in the United States here in Texas, there is basically no nail salon research going on in Texas. With a lot of nail salon workers, they get licensed through apprenticeship rather than going through cosmetology school because there isn't that financial barrier. And English for a lot of them isn't their first language, it's not even their second or third language. And so while they may work with something like toluene, for example, on a daily basis, they don't necessarily know what the short-term health effects are.
Howdy, everybody, and welcome to Work Factors, sponsored by the Texas A&M Center for Worker Health. I am Adam Pickens.
And I'm Martha Parker.
And today we're here with Dr. Aurora Lay.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us.
Of course.
So you are fairly new to Texas A&M, correct?
Correct.
So give us your background. So you're with the Department of Health Behavior, correct?
Yes, I'm currently with the Department of Health Behavior. I have been in academia in faculty roles, tenure and non-tenure, since 2016. This is the third university that I've worked at. And
by far the best.
The best.
Okay, good job.
Well done.
The fifth state that I lived in. So I'm
by far the best.
By the most humid. So I am so tired of moving, but I really do love it here so far. So this is where I hope to hang my hat.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So give us a background. What states have you lived in?
I am originally from California, and then I lived in Nebraska, Indiana, Michigan, and now Texas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've made the rounds.
I am, but I was told to not let people know that I'm from California in Texas because they feel a certain way. So when people ask me where I came from, I just say Michigan, since that's most recently
works.
where I came from.
So also true.
Yes.
Not the whole truth.
Yes.
Yes.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's right. So tell us about your research.
Yeah. So my research generally focuses around occupational health. And in particular, I have specific foci in occupational health disparities, occupational justice, psychosocial factors of work. So that's more like the intangible hazards of work that you don't necessarily think of. Physical hazards are very easy to see, very salient, whereas psychosocial hazards like burnout, turnover intention, job satisfaction, employer support are less tangible and more difficult to measure, but equally impact a worker's physical and mental health. And then as my extracurricular activity, I also do a lot of training and education in the highly infectious disease mitigation and management space from an industrial hygiene standpoint.
Wow.
So what got you interested in this? What got you into the field?
If you had asked me 10 years ago if I would be doing occupational health, I would be surprised. I thought actually at this time I would be in medical school. I'm a different kind of doctor now. I guess I'm saving lives in
every day.
Absolutely.
The long game of saving lives.
You're playing the long game.
Right. But originally how I got into this was during 2014 to 2016, I was getting my master's of public health at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And that just happened to be during the West Africa Ebola outbreak. And the Nebraska Biocontainment Unit there actually treated 3 actual confirmed Ebola patients. And at the time, I had just been asked to be a graduate research assistant, mostly because I needed an in-state tuition rate, and I liked things like stipend and health insurance and all that jazz.
So many of our decisions as students lead from that, right?
So I was like, yeah, I'll do this, even though I was concentrating in community health and health inequities in particular. So really my introduction to occupational health and industrial hygiene was all trial by fire, being a research assistant for the Nebraska Biocontainment Unit and helping them out with their research and programmatic activities, learning about personal protective equipment, aerosolization of, pathogens and all of that. It was all on the job. And I kind of fell in love with it.
Hmm.
At first, I felt torn because I was like, no, I'm abandoning like my community health roots, for this. But then I realized how many health disparities were actually present in the workplace that were not being addressed. So many people often think about health disparities only existing in communities. And, every workplace itself is its own tiny community.
Right.
So I've found a way to like really bridge all my training and experience into this research area now.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that we in this department, um, you know, uh, we're kind of the lesser known within the field of public health. We're environmental occupational health.
Mhm.
I think we're not at the forefront of what most people think of as public health. But my sales pitch to prospective students is always, you're going to be able to get into a smaller community, and you're going to be able to make a difference every day. And that's really, I think, what a lot of people don't think about is that occupational factor. Like, everybody goes to jobs every day, and if you can make a difference in somebody's job, you can really make a big impact.
Yeah.
Well, and to be honest, sometimes and in a lot of instances, that work community is the community
That's true.
for a person or a family or a group of people. It all centers around their job. And so the fact that you were able to bridge your community health and also your occupational health and be able to recognize that psychosocial risk factors do exist, right? And as engineers, we don't really like to talk about those because they make us kind of squishy on the
Uncomfortable,
inside.
it says. I mean,
But they're there,
Yeah.
and they do impact injury, illness, risk, and musculoskeletal discomfort, and all of the things, right?
Yes.
And I think it's beautiful how you described how you just made it all come together. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That is wonderful.
I try. I feel like sometimes I'm still a little bit of an odd bird, right? Because, public health, although it's very interdisciplinary, people like to kind of put you in a little box, a
Mhm.
cubby. But I think, as time goes on, people have become more accepting of the fact that so many of these public health disciplines cross over.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That silo effect, I mean, that's historically been an issue in academia. But I mean, I think in my time in academia, we've kind of seen that shift. And we see a lot more people that are interdisciplinary in their approach to the problem, because, we have to be.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so what are some of the populations that you've been working with?
Yeah, so I mostly focus on non-healthcare worker populations that have comparable risks to specific hazards, mostly biohazards, but I also look at chemicals and the like as healthcare workers. But if you think about it, they're not receiving nearly the same amount of education, training, public praise and attention, nor even the salary sometimes. And these are a lot of things that or groups that people think of as essential workers in particular. During COVID, there was a lot of accolades toward them, as they should be, right? For keeping the economy going, for keeping the country going despite the global pandemic. But now that we're a couple years out, they've kind of fallen back into the shadows again. And so some of the worker populations that I specifically have been working with for several years are people who work in solid and medical waste. For example, they're exposed to aerosols, chemical hazards, volatile organic compounds, sharps, ergonomic hazards, cold and heat stress every day. And they're receiving minimal amounts of training. Death care workers, if you think about folks who work in crematoriums and funeral homes, they're working with a lot of chemicals and known human carcinogens like formaldehyde. But again, the training that they receive is pretty minimal. And then and I also work a lot with nail salon workers as well, who are exposed to a plethora of occupational hazards.
Yeah.
So those are just a few of the select populations. Like I said, I mostly focus on non-healthcare worker populations, just because I feel like there's so many people already doing a lot of research with healthcare workers.
Yeah.
While they're very important, I mostly want to focus on overlooked and vulnerable workers.
Well, you can't have every researcher can't focus on the same population.
Yeah.
Otherwise we would have populations that need to be studied and aren't.
Yeah.
So real quick, let me just let our audience know that if you want to be entered for a chance to have a professional ergonomist from our center, provide you with a free, what are we calling it? Workplace Ergo eval.
Yeah.
Please be sure and check the link in the description. We have a link that will allow you to enter for the drawing, and it's a randomized drawing. And if you get selected, one of the ergonomists from our center will make ourselves available to you for a workplace Ergo eval. And while you're there, be sure and like and subscribe, and be sure to share this. We're trying to get the good word out about the things that we're doing here. So
Work factors.
It's
Pretty great.
Yeah, that's called branding right there.
Branding.
What you did. Well done.
Uh-huh.
So I would assume that you've been in the field a good bit.
Yes, even though I look young.
Yeah.
It's the skincare routine.
So
She's so modest.
I know, right? So Martha and I always like to ask, like, being in the field, what's something memorable that you've seen in the field? Sometimes we use the word crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Crazy, excited, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they do it this way. Or I had no idea. Or something that just kind of blew your socks off.
Sure. Oh, in the field.
Yes.
Let's say in the field.
In the field.
Because you've got a pretty wide background to choose from here.
Yeah, I do. But, we gotta, keep it in the field.
Yes.
I would say the most surprising thing that I've seen so far, surprising maybe to me, maybe not to other people, is back to the healthcare workers. Again, I'm going to kind of contradict myself a little bit. Despite all the training and education that they get, most nursing programs and medical programs spend maybe an hour maximum on talking about personal protective equipment, despite how much they actually wear it. And then understanding the principles of PPE selection, use, maintenance, and care, that's basically not really talked about at all. So in the course of, my practice, this has happened where healthcare workers don't understand how an N95 filtering face piece respirator works. And they think that losing the inability to breathe well during it means that it is filtering properly, rather than the actual filter itself being entirely saturated with, saliva and particles and so on, or just even not knowing how to properly doff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think
doff means take off, by the way.
Doff means take off, yes.
Yeah.
So I think, while I know they have so much curriculum to learn in terms of treating the human body and so on, it shocks me how little time is actually spent training them how to protect themselves.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And we that's not uncommon. And we see that. I mean, we wouldn't be ergonomists. We wouldn't be occupational safety and health professionals if everybody took care of themselves better.
Very true.
We really wouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's not population specific, but also a great example. Independent of populations, really, what do you see as the main psychosocial risk factors for injury and illness?
I would say, well, the biggest one is stress,
Okay.
which is all encompassing, really. But there are so many things that can contribute to stress in the workplace, right? So I think that one of the positives, if there can be positives of the COVID-19 pandemic, is that since then there has been more attention about mental health in the workplace and how work affects your mental health and vice versa. And so when we're talking about stress in particular, there's so many outcomes that are changeable. Some people are just naturally more prone to stress, whether that be genetics, anxiety, they might have a propensity for higher blood pressure and things like that. But there are modifiable factors in the workplace that can decrease stress. And we found that a lot of the times, based on the research, the onus is not supposed to be on the worker. And in fact, you as the individual can only do so much meditation, can only do so much therapy, can only do so much
Deep breathing.
rage stomping around, which is what I do after work on the gym at the treadmill. But organizational factors have the greatest contribution to stress reduction. And typically in public health, we try to look at downstream and upstream factors. But when we're thinking about the workplace, we want to think upstream, which is like the bigger picture here. So looking at job satisfaction, even in some organizations we surveyed where workers aren't making that much, honestly, they're making $30,000 to $40,000 a year, but because they have so much supervisor support and coworker support, those intangible resources buffer essentially the other imbalances that they have in the workplace and provide a net benefit to their health, mental health, and physical health. Or looking at the organization of work, for example, in terms of like staffing, that can be positive. Thinking about rewards in the workplace, which don't always have to be financial. For example, those again can be the intangibles, appreciation, praise, opportunities for professional development, upward mobility. So if there are workplaces that are very serious about decreasing the stress of their employees, happier employees are more productive employees, right? They should really take a look at doing some psychosocial factor assessments. And there's a lot of validated instruments out there available where they can do that.
So to that end, I think our next series of questions is we're going to ask you how people get involved, but I want to offer this to our audience. Be sure and click the link down in the description. We have links to our LinkedIn page. Martha, make sure that we have amazing content up there. We highlight researchers like Dr. Lay, who is with the center. Connect with us, reach out. We also have a link to our department as well. So if you're interested in, kind of what this means to a graduate degree, reach out to us. We've got lots of opportunities that we can share with you and really a lot of open student opportunities.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
we do.
So to that end, what if a student wants to get involved with you? If one of our audience members says, you know what? I think I want to go back and get a
grad
degree.
school and I want to work with Dr. Lay.
Yeah.
So what opportunities are there?
I mean, there's always, I'm always open to students coming and working with me. I don't have a quote, formal lab, so to speak. But I'm always looking for research volunteers and graduate research assistants, even undergraduate research assistants, as long as somebody has a genuine interest in occupational health or any of the topics that I mentioned that I do. I'm especially looking for bilingual research assistants who speak Vietnamese to help me with my nail salon research. But email would be the best way to reach me and say, hey, I saw you on Work Factors and, here's my resume and stuff like that. And as long as they have an expressed interest in what I do, don't copy an abstract from one of my papers because I've had that done before. And then also if you're interested in cancer or climate change, I can help you. Yeah. But if you're interested in occupational health, I would definitely love to have a chat.
So would you saying you don't have a formal lab, I would assume, most of your work is in the field. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I would say it's really cool, but it's also challenging for us because our lab is the work environment. So we have to be invited, but that also means we can be disinvited at any time. It's not like we have a bench laboratory with our cells or our mice where we just waltz in and out and are able to run our experiments and then collect our data. So it's also really important, I think, especially these days, not only to have hard skills, but also what they call soft skills or interpersonal skills, because so much of what we do is relational.
It's go in and figure out what is the benefit for everybody.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. The managers, the supervisors, the owners, the employees, you've got to be able to sell it to to everybody to go out there and do your research.
Yes.
And that is nothing new to us in
No.
the center. And that's why we have really strong relationships with our industry partners. And that is a reason why, because we develop and we work those so that we can say, hey, we need to do some research on, mobile workers. Okay, great. Here's a segment of my worker population that you can work with. So, I mean, to your point, it's really our laboratory. I like what you said. Our laboratory is the workplace.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's super.
Well, and, really, if there's anybody watching that would want to be a part of our research group from an industry perspective, I mean, we have it seems ever growing
Yes.
Industrial Advisory Board. And so we have people from most every industry. And, I think the opportunity exists for a lot of collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Before we go, I'm really curious. Where are you going? What's your next step? What's your next population? You've got a lot of irons in the fire. Are you narrowing things down or are you widening things out?
So many irons, so little time. I mean, the next big thing in a grander scheme of things, I hope I get tenure, or I hope I get tenure.
Always the goal of a faculty member.
And the goal is always, grants and papers, grants and papers. Since leaving the University of Michigan, when I was there for 3 years, I co-led the Michigan Healthy Nail Salon Cooperative there, which was a community-based initiative focused on nail salon workers because they're mostly immigrant women who are low wage, of childbearing age, exposed to a lot of chemicals and hazards. And actually here in Texas, despite there being, most nail salon workers are Vietnamese, despite us having the second largest Vietnamese population in the United States here in Texas, there is basically no nail salon research going on in Texas. I'm part of a national working group of nail salon researchers, and it's all very collegial and super helpful, right? Because we all have the same end goal.
Yeah.
But really, this is an untapped area. And while there is some generalizations between nail salon workers, every community is a little bit different in terms of what their occupational health needs are. And with Texas being wildly different in terms of occupational health regulations compared to what they have going on in California, for example.
I loved how she threw wildly in there with Texas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, good job.
Yeah, we
See?
can't use...
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. We can't use the same interventions. We can't use the same type of techniques. So what's next for me is I'm hoping to get some funding to be able to do a community assessment, a needs assessment of nail salon workers in the Houston metropolitan area, a mixed method study to first survey all the inventory of different occupational health hazards that they encounter, hopefully do a walkthrough of some of the salons so I can do a visual inspection to look at their ventilation system, their storage, where their staffing and eating areas kept, et cetera, and then follow that up with focus groups with nail salon workers and owners where they have a chance to identify what top 3 hazards they perceive being the most negative on their health. And then deciding from there what specific intervention we want to do to target some health improvements, obviously.
Have you done those surveys before?
Yes.
And what was the outcome of what they thought their health problems were versus what you saw or found?
Sure.
Or
So
measured?
I mean, obviously chemical hazards were the biggest concern, but with a lot of nail salon workers, they get licensed through apprenticeship rather than going through cosmetology school because there isn't that financial barrier. And English for a lot of them isn't their first language. It's not even their second or third language. And so while they may work with something like toluene, for example, on a daily basis, they don't necessarily know what the short-term health effects are or the long-term health effects. They just know that it's present in polishes or like polish removers. And they know that when they come into contact with it, they might get respiratory irritation, dermatitis, headaches, fatigue, dizziness, and so on. So they're able to identify at least that much in that the presence of these chemicals is causing them to have these symptoms. But we haven't necessarily got to the next steps yet in terms of prevention, just because this is a small business industry and the margins of profit are so thin. And of course, we want to take care of the customers first and cater to the customers' needs. But unfortunately, that oftentimes means that worker health falls to the wayside. So we're trying to identify some ways to give these communities resources, but also encourage owners to have solutions that are free or low cost so that they can, slowly work on changing the environment.
So I'm completely unaware of the business model. So I'm curious, are most of these, like each shop is owned by an individual, or are they owned by a corporate entity, or how does that work?
Generally, it is a small business owner, and that might own one or a couple of nail salons. And then frequently the salons employ different types of manicurists, and whatever wage they make is flat fee. They don't get paid overtime, and a certain amount has to go to the owner. There's also salons that work in the model where you kind of rent out a station or a space. But again, you still have to provide the owner with a certain amount or a cut of what you made for the day.
More like hair care.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
Excellent. So I'm curious, you mentioned something, and I was thinking about it while you were talking. I was completely listening to you, but
Okay.
I was also thinking. So
that's fine.
He's very talented.
well, let's not go that far. But so you mentioned you've got the study that you're proposing in the Houston Metroplex area.
Yes.
So I think anybody that lives in Texas is kind of aware of the Vietnamese population and the impacts in certain areas. Would a Vietnamese population in Houston be similar to one in Dallas, or would it be different because geographically?
Geographically, obviously it's different, but then also the customer base that they serve is vastly different. And so depending on who they cater to, they might carry different products. For example, they might provide different services. Again, drawing to the example of California, where I'm on this working group with some other researchers. A lot of California nail salons now have worked towards getting nail products that are like 13, what they call 13 free or 15 free of like methyl methacrylate and these different types of compounds, and moving towards more sustainable, less hazardous materials in the polishes and components. There hasn't necessarily been that same consumer drive in other states where the environmental and occupational health regulations are more lax. So depending on the area that you live in, the customer base, they what they are asking for drives the services being offered. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily synonymous between like Houston and Dallas, for example. I'm sure there's some overlap, but again, since every community is so different, kind of need to do a needs assessment.
That's literally what I'm talking about in my, I teach industrial hygiene and occupational safety. And literally that's the thing that we start off with. Do your needs assessment, do your hazard assessment. What are the things that you're dealing with that are unique to this setting?
Find the problem.
Yep.
And then work on the solution.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we really appreciate having you here today.
Of course.
Dr. Lane,
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely.
And I just want to remind everybody and recommend to you for sure. Go down below and click on all the links. You'll go to the School of Public Health, Texas A&M School of Public Health, Environmental and Occupational Health Department. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and you will also hit our center website down there. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate the time. We appreciate. I've learned a lot.
Oh, huge.
It's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you. Oh, let me try this out. Whoop.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.